Struggling to switch off? Let me show you a tangle that has such a lovely rhythm and flow. It looks complex, but it's really simple, and I know that you're going to love it. I'm Lisa, a certified Zentangle teacher, and today I am going to teach you how to draw Diva Dance. So there are a few different variations of Diva Dance. I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of versions. So I'm just doing my dots in the corners with pencil and joining them in border and joining them with a border. And then I'm going to come in, this is called Diva Dance Waltz. And so when you're doing Diva Dance Waltz, I think the idea originally behind this was that there was one line ordered by a second line, 1, 2, and then the next step, 3, would be to add some bumps just randomly along the line. They don't need to necessarily be in the bits where there's dips in that curvy line. You could put them on top of the bumps as well. You don't have to have them evenly spaced apart, but you've got 1, 2, 3, and that is basically the idea behind Diva Dance Waltz. So do another bit here. So that's 1, 2, and then these little bumps that I'm creating, they kind of look a bit like crescent moon, you know, when you're doing the ladybug shape on crescent moon. But you don't have to have them be consistent in their shape or their size. Like I could do one here, like really extravagant, if that's the right way of putting it. I don't think extravagant is the right word, but you know, so there's just the different bumps, different sizes, and you're just basically repeating that as you fill your space that you have. Second line of aura. And then you would do your border and you would just fill this in whatever. I mean, obviously you don't have to use Diva Dance Waltz within a square shape. You could put it pretty much in whatever background shape that you have. It's very versatile. So on this next tangle, I'm going to show you, the next tile rather, I'm going to show you Diva Dance Foxtrot. So just again, corner dots and then border. And I'm going to join the corners diagonally. I'm going back to my pen and we're going to do 3 aura lines. And you don't have to necessarily match these aura lines up consistently. I mean, you could bump that out a little bit more if you want. But you've got, instead of the 2 aura lines, you've got 3. And then you come to putting down your bumps. I'm just repeating that. This is such a lovely pattern to do. You just get into the flow of it and it's just really relaxing, I find. I don't tend to do Diva Dance Foxtrot or Diva Dance Waltz all that often though, for whatever reason. I just always gravitate towards doing the Diva Dance Rock and Roll, which is what I'm going to more or less demonstrate to you today. So I'm going to put aside these tiles and then I'm going to bring in a tan tile. So I'm going to go back to my pencil just now and I'm going to roughly mark the centre of my tile. It does not have to be exactly centred. And then I'm trying to aim to have about 6 different spokes coming off here for the idea of my string for today. So these are not necessarily perfectly spaced apart, but it's just some kind of way of dividing my tile a little bit. So this is sort of like the beginning of tangle. So I'm just roughly coming into the centre of those previous spokes there. I could technically have done this bit with pen. I don't know why I went in with the pencil, to be honest, but there we go. So it's sort of like tangle. I'm just going to ink over where I've done those lines now. So as I said before, all of the variations of Diva Dance, whether it be waltz, foxtrot or rock and roll, they're all very versatile and they will fit in pretty much any space that you could want to put them into, whether that space be, you know, I've drawn Diva Dance rock and roll so that it looked like a flower, or I've used it in a border. Loads and loads of different ways that you can use them. So now that I've created, it's almost like a cross between a star and a flower, I'm going to aura in here so that I've got a kind of smaller triangularish shape inside. And also, just to mention, by all means, if you have done, maybe you've done Diva Dance before, and you kind of would like to just put Diva Dance into a different string, I'm just kind of using an example of string. You don't have to use the exact same string that I'm using at the moment. Just go with what you feel drawn to do. No pun intended. So when you're drawing Diva Dance rock and roll, it starts like prantom, if you're familiar with the tangle prantom. So that's a spiral tangle. So you start your spiral as you normally would for prantom, but then you stop to create some bumps that are going around. So it's kind of a stop and start tangle. When I first started doing Diva Dance, I didn't really like it, and I don't know what it was. I've seen people kind of doing this in a different way. I can't even remember how it was demonstrated, and I just it didn't vibe with me for some reason. So I didn't do it, but then after a while I saw somebody teaching it the way that I'm doing just now, and I just love it. It's one of these ones where it fills the space so quickly, and I think I'm going to just keep this going just now until I fill the full space of that triangle. But what you could do is, if you look at a Diva Dance, as it's almost like a rose, if you see what I mean. It's kind of like a rose curling in itself with all the petals clustered together. You could have small Diva Dance rock and rolls all kind of clustered together, but I think I'm going to just fill this whole space in so that it's like one big Diva Dance rock and roll in here. And so, as I mentioned in the demonstration of the other versions of Diva Dance, you could have these bits, these bumpy bits, a little bigger, don't feel that it looks like this pen might be drying out a little bit, so we'll see how I get on with this. I do have others. Actually, if you watched my video last week, you'll know that I have a ridiculous quantity of pens, to the extent where I was struggling to organise them because I just have so many. But I don't see that as a problem. And as I also said last week, I will not stop buying more pens. So yeah, just repeating that as I go around, and then just like placing those ink bits fairly randomly. And all we're doing now is simply repeating that in each of the other petals. What you could do, because initially I thought that I might have alternating versions so that you could have, in fact, that's what I will do. I'll have 3 rock and roll, and I'll alternate them with Diva Dance waltz. So you could have yours all be waltz, all be foxtrot, all be rock and roll. It's just whatever you would like to do. But it's such a great tangle for having some drama, and you can really kind of make your own, like kind of, you can stamp your own style on this one, because I could imagine that a lot of people, I think it's fair to say that I'm quite bold with the size of the tangles that I put down, and I tend to use like a thicker pen nib and whatnot. But I think that there would be plenty of other people out there who would tangle along to this video, follow exactly the guidelines that I'm demonstrating, but then have like a much more elegant looking Diva Dance, you know, just because of the fact that they're maybe using smaller pen, their natural style is to draw smaller. So just embrace, and obviously you can see you don't necessarily have to have the 2 auras and then do the bumps. You could have one line and then do bumps. You don't have to rigidly stick with a specific number of aura lines. Just where you feel you would like to put your ink down. It's just such a statement that this tangle makes. I think it's really good. So then moving back on to, and you could, if you wanted to, have, you know, 3 different tangles here, because you've obviously got the rock and roll, the waltz, and you could do foxtrot in here, but I'm just going to alternate between the 2 styles. You could have different colours brought in, especially if you're tangling on a tile at the minute that's tan coloured. You know, if you wanted to, you could bring in brown pen on tan paper, or just do any variations in colour. Don't have to obviously be working on a tan tile to do different colours. Tiny wee bump there. So I think you'll see what I mean, that the space fills up really quite quickly when you're putting Diva Dance down. And I think as well, the tangle does look quite complex, you know, once you see it all finished. But when you see how it's broken down into the individual steps, it's really not too complicated at all. So you just get into a nice little rhythm. And I'm always turning my tile just because I find it easier to draw, so that, like, I mean, it might be different if you were left-handed, but I like having the line that I'm auditing be on the left-hand side of my pen. Just easier for being a bit more accurate. Although we know in Zentangle that there is no need for trying to be perfect, because none of us on this planet are perfect, are we? I do think that Diva Dance is quite possibly, to the best of my knowledge, Diva Dance is the first tangle that I ever saw. Like, when Zentangle as a concept became known to me, one of the earliest videos, at the very least, if not the first Zentangle video that I saw, and I'll link to this in my description, is where Rick was drawing a tile, tangling a tile, where it was a combination of Diva Dance, waltz and paradox, and it's very much a high focus tangle that he was creating. But it was just so, there was something about that video that really intrigued me. So that was certainly one of the earlier tangling videos that I ever saw. So if you haven't yet watched that, I'll share the link in my description. And at this point in time, I think there's been 4 tangling projects for the latest project pack. I might be getting that number wrong. It might be day 5 now. I've really been enjoying this one. So the most recent one, I'll show you at the end what I've been working on, but the most recent video that they put out was Maria teaching it, and the string for that one, I don't have this project pack. I've not bought this particular project pack, so I had to kind of recreate it as best I could. But yeah, it's like one of these, like, it looks like you're looking down a hall and there's like vanishing points, and you'll see what I mean when I show you it. So that's kind of been, because the whole project pack, if you're not familiar with it, the whole project pack is about fragments and reticula. Fragments just being a pattern that you repeat, and the reticula is the grid that you draw those fragments into. So it's been interesting doing fragments in a new way. So I've quite enjoyed that last one. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other treats and surprises that Zentangle have up their sleeves for us. I think there's another one due to come out tonight. Well, I don't know when they're actually released by Zentangle, but my time in the UK, I access them in the evenings. And then, provided that Isla has settled all right, which almost never has these days. Provided that she's asleep and settled, then I can sit down and do some tangling. So very nearly there. So just literally wherever you think that you might need another bit of ink. I think this might balance if I had a little bit more ink here, but if you were tangling this at home, you might put more or less ink on yours. And just remembering that there's no rush, just enjoy each step and relax your shoulders. Just forget about any stresses that you've got going on for a wee while, because tangling is all about making a space for yourself, and it's about self-care. So now we've come to the end of the filling this string in with all the different versions of Diva Dance. And I dare say I'll come in later on and embellish like the background or do something different with the background. But for now, I'm just going to come in with my pencil, my standard graphite pencil. I really like this one. It's a Faber-Castell. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. It's a TK9400, and it's just a refillable pencil, which I really like. I'm actually going to put these pencil lines all the way out. Yeah, it's you get some leads with it, but instead of a regular mechanical pencil where, like, you know, when the pencil nib is dulled, you press a button at the bottom. This one is slightly different because you can actually sharpen the leads. It's like a specific sharpener that you use for this pencil. But you know, as I mentioned last week, I do have a lot of pens and tangling supplies, and so I just I like that this is more sustainable. It's part of the reason that I've got the Lumos and the Ren pen as well from Tom's Studio. I still very much love those pens. I just need to actually get round to filling the ink up in those pens. But I'll do that. So I am going to come in with a blending stump and smooth the pencil lines out there. But what I'm going to do, initially I thought that I was just going to leave these auras as they were, but I'm deciding now that I'm going to come in and just put some orbs in here, just for a bit of decoration, a bit of texture. I think this will set it off a little bit more. And it might be that you've followed along with my string, but you've not done the aura on your Diva Dances, and you've just got the Diva Dances going right up to the edges, and that's totally cool as well. Just go with whatever is appealing to you. But I feel like that's just become so much more interesting for me already, just adding those orbs in. Yeah, I'm liking that. You could do, instead of doing the orbs, you could perhaps do some, it's maybe not a wide enough line to do a doodah, you know, where you've got alternating lines and one line would be starting from the top of the bar and not quite going down to the bottom, and the other line going the other way. Might not be enough space for that, but you could do like just some lines for texture. You could do zigzags. You could do some Knightsbridge so that you've got some squarish shapes and then ink every other one in. You could come in with a different colour. Right, we're halfway there. Taking your time, and also not kind of gripping your pen too tightly. When I was watching, I believe it was the most recent Zentangle project pack video, Rick was talking about how somebody had mentioned that your grip on your pen should be so light as to be very, very gentle. He said, you know, the kind of delicate way that you would pick up a bird's egg so that you don't break the shell, because it's so easy to just have tension in our bodies with not really being aware of it. So just try and ease off any tension, whether it's in your shoulders or your fingers, anywhere that you might be holding that tension. One more. So I might come back to my pen in a minute, but for now I'm going to go to my, this is a tortillon, which is a rolled up piece of paper that we use to smooth out any pencil lines that we have, and it changes them from being pencil lines to looking more like a shadow. I just love the impact that a little bit of graphite can have on your paper. No matter how gorgeous I think a tile looks when it's just been tangled, it's just the addition of the pencil and the shading. It's that, it just, for me, I will always shade my tiles Just adds an extra bit of oomph. So I'm just going to shade on, blend the graphite on the other sides, and then I'm going to put some graphite on the insides of these triangular sections as well. You can see where I've gone over with my pen slightly on the outside of that line, but that doesn't matter. And like I say, just putting some graphite just on the insides here. You don't need to go over the black areas because you're not going to get those black areas any darker anyway. And putting graphite over those areas might just make the black ink look a bit shiny. Kind of reminds me the Diva Dance waltz. It looks like water in a stream or something. I don't know if that's just me, but I quite like that. So now just smoothing those lines out. You could do both sides in each triangle, one after the other if you like. It's just that I quite like having the bit here where I'm facing. I like having the tortillon point into the bit that I'm shading to rather than doing it this way. Just find that easier for myself. And then back around at the start, so just going around on the opposite sides now. And if you've been watching on my channel for a while, you'll know that I don't just like the shading, I also like the highlighting. So I'm coming in now with my white pastel pencil, and I'm just putting pastel pencil pretty much right over the centre of each of these individual shapes. It just adds something completely different. So now I'm going to bring in my tortillon for my white pencil and smooth out that white. And I think I'm going into the centres with my pen again, into the centres of each of these orbs. I think I'm just going to leave them exactly as they are in terms of graphite. I'm not going to go over them with graphite, but I'm going to put the little dots down just for another little bit of detail. I might go over them with my white pastel pencil in a moment, but I'll see. So that's my first full week back into the normal routine because Isla was back at school last week, but she only went back for her first day back of the new term on Wednesday. So this is my first full week. So I'll be able to get back into the flow of things a bit more easily, I think. She's still at that age where, like, you know, we were quite lucky for childminding over the holiday because my mum and dad, both from a point of view of being lucky that we live quite close to them, but they also were happy to take Isla for a couple of days a week, and Isla's childminder took her. She normally only goes to the childminder obviously after school, but she went to the childminder a couple of full days over the holiday. So it was, I can't really complain that I had to spend a lot of time out of work, but it does have, even though it wasn't a lot of time away from my desk, there was some time away. And it kind of adds up, I think. So yeah, it's my first full week back. So I've gone round all of those orbs now. Obviously you could choose to not go in with ink. Maybe you could have inked yours in, so I've kind of done it the opposite way around. You could have inked most of it in, but left like a little bit of a highlight in the middle. Just to kind of suggest that to you, something you might want to try. Just trying to be quite careful here because I should have maybe sharpened this pastel pencil off before starting to record. So I'm just trying not to go too much outside of the lines. But I think that's adding something. So just do this one last petal edge, or whatever you want to call this shape, and then I'm going in with my blending stump. So now to put my chalk down, just basically a mark to sign it, because this is my artwork. Anybody who has artwork hanging in a gallery will have their name on it, so I'm signing my artwork as well. And I'm just adding a wee bit of shadow to that, just because I can. Put some highlight down here. And now I'll show you some previous examples of Diva Dance, just to kind of give you a bit of inspiration. So this one is a page in my sketchbook, and you can see here that I've used it, like Zentangle, if you know by now, it's a non-representational art form. But you can see that I've got, this is like representing a tree trunk in this context, and then I've got Mirth, I think is it's Pangea, is the shapes of these spaces here into which I've put the different fragments. So that's kind of an idea of the fragments in reticulate I mentioned before. I've also got, this is a mycelium mushroom that was taught during a recent class. It's a Facebook group that I'm a member of for Zentangle teachers. Cannot remember for the life of me the name of the teacher who demonstrated this. However, you can see that I've got Diva Dance rock and roll in there, and so just to prove that's kind of, it's a mushroom, but you know, you can kind of see in this context how it does work as a border tangle as well. But I use Diva Dance as a background and a filler as well. You can see I love this pen. It's Talons. I can't remember what it's called. Effects liner maybe. So you dab that on. It looks like almost like a glue stick, but it's paint, and then it dries in kind of 3D. Here I've got some Diva Dance, just like a it almost looks like a bouquet of roses to me. I just really love that. This one, I think, may have been a tile that I drew when it was one of the Tangle Club lessons that I went to. Zenjo, if you know Jo Quincy, I think she taught that at one of her lessons. This one was a Zentangle challenge that I had done recently. It might have been Zenuary, I'm not sure. But whatever the challenge was, the particular day that I've done here, it was to floralise a tangle, if floralise is a word, flowerise, whatever. So I've got Diva Dance there, just again looking like roses. Some more background filling. Again here behind Toodles. I really quite like this tile. It didn't look very special to me, and then I had gone back in with some you know, I think it's called layout pencil. It's the General's pencil. It's a darker graphite and it's very soft, so it looks much more dramatic on the page. So I went in with that and some more pen, and I love that now. In the middle here, you see what I mean about how I kind of gravitate towards the Diva Dance rock and roll more than the other versions. Here it's one of the project pack tiles, and it's here. I can't even remember which project pack this was. It was a few project packs ago. So Mulligan with lots of different shapes in it, and this was not deliberate, it's just the colour that I'd gone for, but somebody said they quite liked how I'm Scottish, and it reminds them, obviously it's not exactly the Scottish flag because it's just, the Scottish flag is just the cross, but it does sort of look reminiscent of the Scottish flag at the same time. If you watched last week, you'll have seen, I'm putting everything upside down, you'll have seen this page that I showed at the start of the video. So this is Diva Dance Foxtrot and then Diva Dance Rock and Roll. So that's how they can work as a border. I've got one more here where it's used as a filler. And the last one to show, if I can just find it on, yeah, here we've got it here. This is one of the other project packs that we had. And this one, I bought this one, I think, at the end of my seminar when I became a Zentangle teacher. So yeah, I'm just going to zoom out of this one. Can't even get a proper full look at it because it's just so big for my camera. It's a lot of work's gone into this. I can't even say that it's finished yet because it's one of these things, like Zentangle always say themselves, you think you're finished and then you're like, oh no, I'll just add a bit of shade here, I'll just add more colour there, I'll just add highlight there. It's very much still a work in progress, but I'm going to end up, when it's finished, I'm going to get that framed. So yeah, you can see how versatile Diva Dance is, I'm sure by now. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if it's made you feel calm, if it's relaxed you, even if you've just been watching along with it, please do give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And also in my description, there will be a link to various different things that you can do to kind of, you know, like if you want to find me on other social media, you'll find my social media handles in there. It's just basically creatingcam.art on Facebook and Instagram. But I'm on Pinterest as well, and there's links in my page as well where you can come and have online lessons with me. So yeah, very much hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you for joining along. I hope to see you at another one in the future, and have a great week ahead. Bye. I did mention that I was going to show you what I've been doing so far with the most recent project pack day. I think this is day 4 or day 5, whichever one, I'm not sure. But you can see what I mean about the working in perspective. So it's not exactly accurate because of the fact that I was creating this one myself, just using the Zentangle one as a point of reference, but it's so much fun. I've not even got to the shading yet. I've still got some tangling to do, as you can see. But it's just a different way of adding fragments to a page that I've not really thought to do before, you know, with the perspective. So lots and lots of fun. Let me know if you've been doing the project pack as well. And once again, thank you for watching. Bye!